Okay, so this is the last video for the subject monetary policy and central banking. The topic is central banking for socio-economic development. So I already made a video previously, but I found this one on prezi.com. So this was created by Mikey Perez, and I'm just going to show you because it has a bit more information about the topic, I guess. Okay, waiting for this to load. Okay, central banking for socio-economic development. So the right to development. Development is defined as a dynamic process which involves the interaction among various economic, social, cultural, political, and religious factors. So, when doing business or when you are trying to conduct an economic activity, normally you would have to deal with other factors, social, cultural, political, and religious factors for you to be successful in your endeavor. Okay. For a poor country, development means a sustained effort at the elimination of hunger, disease, ignorance, injustice, and iniquity. Okay. So essentially what we want is for everyone to have a better life, to provide them with why? Oh, my cat is meowing. Go out. Okay, where were we? So essentially what we want is for everyone to have a better life, right? And normally the central bank will be able to contribute to that by stimulating economic activity when businesses expand, when they hire more people, and so the people that they would hire would be able to support themselves. But of course, not everyone will be able to get a job through these businesses. So sometimes there are other programs that they could rely upon, like CSR activities or even government programs themselves, right? And of course, the government, since the general public is paying them with taxes, and the people are supporting the government, so the government in turn must provide the needs of the people, especially those that are at the lower part of the economy. Okay, so elimination of hunger. Normally, there are feeding programs, I think, livelihood programs as well. These days, more and more hospitals have been what do you call this? Have been put up in the last few years. Okay, have your build program by President Duterte. And then, of course, we want education to be free for all and, not a privilege to very few people. If you've seen or if you've heard that statistics about, the number of people who would enroll in elementary, number of them who would graduate grade 6, and then the number of them who would graduate grade 10, and then senior high, and of course, how many of them would be able to reach college and actually complete their education. Essentially, the number percentage is very low. So we're trying to eliminate, ignorance, injustice, and inequality by providing quality education to our people so that, they are aware of what's going on. They could make proper observations, proper opinions, and proper decisions, in their daily lives. Okay, so that they would not be duped by fake news. They would not be deceived by false information and whatnot. Okay, so that they could think for themselves and uh, decide on what's best for them. Okay, it is not only concerned with economic development but also the promotion of human dignity. So people's rights, okay, people's welfare. International Conference on Human Needs declared the satisfaction of human needs is indeed the whole purpose of growth, trade and investments, development assistance, the world food system, population policy, energy planning, commodity stabilization, ocean management, environmental protection, monetary reform, and arms control. Okay. Who runs the world? Well, people, and there are a lot of people in the world. And normally, in the recent decades, businesses, when they put up their businesses, they are usually trying to address a need or trying to resolve a problem. Either, to provide convenience, to provide comfort for the people. But, over the years, In recent years, we're also seeing people reacting to how certain businesses are affecting the environment, climate change, carbon emissions, things like that, and how we owe it to the future generations to protect our environment so that, they'll be able to enjoy what we've enjoyed in the past. Okay. So you have all these considerations. And then the president of Senegal Supreme Court, the right to development is a human right because man cannot exist without development. And all the developments were initiated, implemented, conducted by us humans as well, right? Two different worlds. So we live in two different worlds, one for the rich and another for the poor. In the world of rich, they are, busy pursuing their higher needs, while on the latter, there is widespread hunger, disease, and ignorance. Okay. Majority of the Filipinos consider themselves as poor, and when you look at, there is actually a classification, right? Low income families or households, you have your middle, lower, and you have your middle, you have your uh, middle, higher ba, or what's the term again? But essentially, there are those levels, right? And you'd notice that majority of the Filipinos are below the middle range, and majority are at the lowest level, actually. So there are different needs and different problems, different concerns, for everyone. 40,000 children die every day due to malnutrition, and yet the world has the resources to feed them. So I've seen this particular video a few years back, and it says that, out of the total production, world production, every year, 40% of it go to waste. Okay, so essentially, if we have all this food, all these products and services, normally products, majority are products. Only 60% or around that figure are actually used or utilized by the people, and the rest, about 40% of it, go to waste. So, essentially that much, 40% could have fed those who are experiencing hunger, right? Or malnutrition and all these needs. So we could have, do something, maybe logistics, distribution, but anyway, we'll see how the government goes. The promotion of human dignity. Development is primarily concerned with the promotion of human... No! Why are you... Okay, sorry. The cat was biting my laptop charger. So. Okay, promotion of human dignity. So development is primarily concerned with the promotion of human dignity. Priceless gift of God to man. Without human dignity, man is no better than an animal. Okay. In addition, the United Nations declares the aim of development should be the constant improvement of the well-being of the peoples on the basis of their full participation in the process of development and a fair distribution of its benefits. Each country has the right and responsibility to choose its means and goals of development, such as the implementation of progressive economic and social reforms. All the countries have the duty, and individually and collectively, to cooperate in removing the obstacles that hinder the mobilization and utilization of resources. Okay. UNESCO Director General statement, the social reality and development is something much more than material well-being. Human dignity is at least as important a part of it as happiness. And that dignity is meaningless except in relation to those values which make life worth living, and of which culture is both the custodian and the critic, the repository and the originator. Okay. Deprivations of the rural poor. The roots of poverty are the rural areas. Maybe. The poorest of the poor are found in such places, although here in the Philippines, majority of them, they did come from rural areas, but they flocked to the cities in the hope that they would find jobs there and that they could send, money to their families back in the rural areas. Hoping against hope, they go to the cities for possible better life. This influx of rural poor to the urban centers has created slums and squalor. Okay? Not a few of them live under the bridges and along riverbanks. In urban societies of the world, the poorest of the poor, called both people of agriculture, they have no lands of their own, nomads. They live in their small boats. They also use their boats as the principal source of their livelihood. I think this is in a particular country. I forgot. But I believe it's an Asian country. Okay. The miseries of the urban poor. Urbanization is a symbol of economic growth. However, this is only for developed countries. The Philippines is still a developing country. Extreme rural poverty has forced the people of the villages to move into the cities in the hope of improving their economic conditions. Because in the cities, there's a lot of business activity. Most businesses put up their offices there, and so majority of the employment opportunities are, yes, in the cities. But there's also a lot of competition in the cities. So some or a majority or most of the people who go there to find jobs are finding it difficult to actually find jobs, right? The jobs of central banking. So as the central monetary authority, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas does not only control the volume of the money, but also the allocation of available credit facilities. The main focus of the economic recovery is on the development of agriculture and countryside. So the GOCCs that we have, Land Bank and DBP, so they are supportive of these programs, for the agriculture. You have farmers, fishermen, fisherfolk, and of course the development of small and medium enterprises. The Bangko Sentral extends loans either from domestic or foreign sources to the government for its various socio-economic programs and projects. Rural development programs and projects. So rural development primarily concerned with optimum utilization of resources. So you have your human, economic, social, physical in a given area through a systematic manner based on self-reliance. Many of our major rural development programs and projects have been funded by the US, Japan, Australia, and other rich countries. This includes roads, bridges, irrigation, electrification, water supply, communication, health and school facilities. So essentially these are, the basic infrastructures, right? The World Bank and the Asian Development Bank have granted substantial loans for our rural development, which is the main focus of their development assistance programs. So normally if you have the infrastructure, it would provide better, essentially these are utilities, right? Better utilities and better infrastructure for the delivery of the services to the people. Okay, so you have your health, you have your schools, you have your health, education, that. Housing the urban poor. So most families live in rooms and apartments which are unfit for human habitation. Because of the law of supply and demand, rentals for bed spaces, rooms, and apartments have greatly escalated. Okay? Those who cannot afford to put up their shanties along river banks, railroads, and seashores. So what do we call that? Others erected their makeshift houses in vacant public lots. The poorest groups sleep in Rizal Park, under the bridges, and in underpass. Okay? So there are a lot of people who remain in the streets, right? Kato, what are you doing? Okay, so the cat is now gone, but the dogs are barking. Wonderful time. I will continue anyway. Housing program of the government. Our urban development program, which is primarily a housing program, is largely funded by the World Bank. Nevertheless, the BSP can also participate in the housing program for the poor by extending soft loans for housing projects through the government and the banking system. Although currently I'm not sure if they do have housing projects, although, The urban poor can avail of such housing credit facilities to be able to own their houses and lots on very easy installment scheme. We'll look into that, but I'm doubtful. Okay. Concepts or approaches in sheltering the urban poor. So housing is seen as a whole process of development, embracing all the needs important to man, his community, and the place he lives in. So essentially it provides comfort, right? Majority of the housing programs must be for the poor since they have the largest need for decent shelter and deserve government assistance. The residents must actively participate in improvement of their communities. Although, there is that question. They do have houses in the provinces or in rural areas, so, they can, there is that argument that they could just go home, and why do they insist on living in the cities where they cannot afford the cost of living, right, or the living expenses. So again, it's going to be a balance between opportunities and others. Okay, housing benefits, designs, and costs are planned according to the ability to pay of residents. But essentially, if you're unemployed or you don't have a stable job, it would be difficult to avail of those programs. Investments must be recovered either directly from beneficiaries or indirectly from other sources to sustain the efforts of the government to provide shelter to the urban poor. Okay, they don't want to make it a dole out, but yes, housing is the concern of everybody, thus every sector of society must contribute to the solution of the housing problem. All agencies of the government, both local and national, must participate in the total housing program. But we have the NHA, right? National Housing Authority. They do have programs, but I haven't heard much about their programs. So, private resources must be mobilized to satisfy the housing need. The social responsibility of central banking. So the main function is the management of money. Proper management of money can lead to price stability, more jobs, and better economic growth. With the vast resources and powers of the central bank of any country, this is bank, it can greatly influence the direction of the financial system towards the attainment of major economic goals. The central bank must not only pursue price stability and economic growth if these do not touch the lives of the poor masses. Price stability is useless if most of the people are jobless. Economic growth is meaningless if the fruits of development do not seep down to the level of the poorest of the poor. Credit is the key factor in accelerating rural development. It provides funds for productive projects that can create products, jobs, and incomes for the rural poor. Okay. The problem here is that, okay, so you have your education. Majority of the people that they want to provide loan products to are not educated and not very knowledgeable with regards to credit, the concept of interest and, penalties if they cannot pay, if they defaulted in the payment of their amortization or payment of their loans. And so, instead of helping them, sometimes these people get deeper into debt instead of, being able to afford their houses. And since there's a possibility that they cannot pay off the total amount of the loan, then the house could be, foreclosed or forfeited, right? So I think it's important that we educate them first and we explain properly the consequences of, the possibilities available to them if they are unable to pay, things like that. And of course, we have the issue of corruption here in our country. So government projects, normally before it trickles down into the lowest part of the departments, there is that assumption that those in the higher ups have already gotten their share and whatnot, and those that are actually given to the actual beneficiaries is just a small portion of what is meant to be given to them, right? Anyway, according to Dr. Fetter, the credit system of the less developed countries has not been designed for the poor. So again, first of knowledge, they do not lack they do lack the knowledge or the education for them to properly understand what loans are, the consequences of getting a loan, being unable to pay, what's going to happen next. They could go deeper into that, if they are unable. Okay, as long as there is outstanding debt, then the interest would continue to accumulate, and that could be very difficult for the poor. Senator Romulo said that before bankers, that banks funnel their resources, which are generated from rural savings to urban projects, which do not benefit the poor. Some, yes, but still, actually, with regards to accessibility of financial services, there's still a large portion of the poor that do not have savings or bank accounts, right? Social contract oversee each institution, individual, social, political, and economic, depends on one another. So there's, interrelationship. Such interdependence requires unity and cooperation, which are vital to the growth of the whole. But if one of them is, corrupted, have ill intentions, selfish, then it would not benefit the whole, right? Some of them would even take advantage of the others. So there is that. Central banking must help blaze the path towards the attainment of social justice. This is the only way for man to lie with human dignity. Okay. In recent months, there have been a lot of controversial issues that we've seen our, politicians or government officials have done. So, again, the public is trying to hold them responsible or accountable. Some of them did, but some of them are, what do you call it, have no shame, shameless, okay? That they would excuse their own behaviors, excuse their own actions without actually taking responsibility. And, essentially their excuses were lame and unacceptable. So, let's pray for our country. The central bank of any country has the social responsibility to help themselves. It should actively participate in eliminating or reducing poverty, ignorance, disease, and injustice. Economic abundance and modern technology become only meaningful if these touch the lives of the poorest of the poor. So it can be said that there is social justice. This is the only way for man to live with human dignity. So again, arguments, right? So there are people, of course, there are those of us who are trying to do our best to get a job, to support ourselves, to live well. But whenever there are programs directed for the poor, there are those of us who would not be appreciative of it because we're not beneficiaries of those programs. And we feel that those people could help themselves, right? They could find jobs of their own, earn money on their own. Why do they have to rely on the government? But that's an argument, right? On the part of the poor sector, of course, there are a certain portion of them that legitimately need the help of the government. I say, the seniors, the disabled, the children. But of course, for those adults or young adults who are able to work, then I say let them work, right? Okay. Oh, okay, so that's the end of this one. And okay, before we end, just another matter that I've been thinking of. So you have all these, you have your central bank, you have your government, you have these private sectors trying to help the poor or the poorest sector of our country. But there is that question that they do have all these programs, but are they actually, impacting the lives of these people in a way that uplift their lives or in a way gets them out of poverty? Actually, of course, there are some programs that do that, but majority of the programs are just expenses in a way. So I think the better method would really be to eliminate unemployment or to increase employment rates, provide, jobs to majority of the people, or, just teach them how to earn money, how to work, maybe do business. But in that sense, it would redound to education, right? Make education free for all, although, college education is not free for everyone. There are limitations on the number of slots that SUCs or public schools and public colleges can accept. So maybe they can increase the slots, right? Or maybe they can put up or establish more colleges or state universities. And then, of course, it's not just about putting up the schools. You have to think about the issues that those departments are facing, right? You have your education department. The students have issues and problems. The teachers also have issues and problems. There are too many students in a class. The teachers cannot handle everything. They have too much paperwork to do. they're not properly compensated, they're overworked essentially, right? And then I think we should also look into the content of the syllabus, or the things that are being taught to our students, because really there are a lot of things that have been taught that I don't think I remember anymore, right? So it would be best if they could, focus on things that would matter in a particular situation that students would be able to actually use later in life, right? So focus more on values, entrepreneurship maybe, ethics, professionalism, okay? Unless they're, going to specialize in sciences, they're going to go into the medical field, then of course go ahead. You'd have to ensure that they are properly uh, provided with the knowledge in sciences and mathematics or whatnot, right? So essentially, you just have to, tailor fit the content of the courses to what the students actually need. Okay. And then what else? So essentially, there is that. I think there is also the fact that those in the position, I wouldn't say they are short-sighted, but they feel that because they have programs that they are implementing and providing for the people, they feel that it is enough, but I don't think they're actually, in touch with reality, that there are other problems. Yes, you've addressed this problem, but you have failed to consider the different factors that could affect the different recipients of the program. Okay, everyone's situation is not the same. There are people who'd be able to cope easier than others. There are people who have less problems than others. There are those people who are experiencing less trouble than others. And so they should have, they should simply be considerate, right? And implement programs in accordance with the needs and wants of the people. So, okay, so that's it for this one. Thanks and bye.